You, but I need to get back home. But this, what did you call it? Pay for a favour?
Yeah, that's right.
You go ahead with it.
What? Are you sure?
Yes. Mia was right. It's just the kind of thing Nick might have thought of herself.
And see how that goes, but it's a massive blow for Chelsea.
Matt Upson, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
What do you make of all this then today? The fact that Chelsea might well have a transfer ban for 2 windows.
Well, it just seems a little bit ironic that they may actually end up having to use some of the players that they've been so desperate in acquiring and been nurturing for all this time, all these players on loan. In some ways it's very difficult for them to manoeuvre through. I kind of feel like they're already preparing for it. Obviously they knew that there was a possibility of this being down the line. A lot of people looked at the signing of Pulisic in the window and thought, that's strange. There's players in those positions, but they're obviously prepared to lose players of that position like Hazard and try and get some backup. Hudson-Odoi, another one, they were adamant not to let him go. You can kind of see why now. They're trying to keep hold of as many key players as they can, but also an opportunity for the youth at Chelsea, which I personally think would be great for the club.
And I suppose when you look at it, Jonathan, it's paramount in the minds of FIFA here, the protection of young footballers, young people, which is what they essentially are. Hence why moves like this and the big clubs are being scrutinised in this way.
Yeah, and I think more clubs will come out. I think it's a big problem. I've heard lots of academies do this. I'm not saying another club's going to come out next week, but I think younger players are getting agents at 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years of old. I mean, your lads at Nottingham Forest Academy, I'm sure you get agents watching the games at that age as well, and it's a big problem.
And from a club situation, Matthew, this seems to be something that almost started off in Spain because we saw sanctions against the likes of Barcelona. It seems to be arriving at our shores now, and Chelsea may well only be the first.
Absolutely, I agree with Jonathan. I think it's something that goes on. Whether or not clubs can conceal it or do it in the appropriate manner, so they're not breaking any regulations, but definitely what the regulations are and how they're worded needs to be looked at, because it's important that I think young players make the right decisions for the right reasons when they're young, and for the footballing reasons that are at hand and what their development is, as opposed to incentives that may get offered. And they're such young, impressionable players that it's important that they're looked after and the right things are in place.
And to both of you here, I mean, when I thought about this today, there's not a great deal of damage that you can do to these big clubs in world football these days by fining them, but if you are going to make it difficult for a club and really hit home with a punishment, preventing them from signing players in transfer windows is exactly the way to go about it. And when you look at the situation that Chelsea are in, David touched on it, there's a lot of speculation right now about where Eden Hazard will be playing next season. He'll look at this and then analyse depending on how the appeal goes, but of course the potential here is that they could lose a player like Eden Hazard, Chelsea, and then not be able to replace him at all for essentially one full season, which would really hit them hard.
Yeah, I think you're 100% correct. I think, the fine of £460,000 not going to hurt Chelsea one little bit, but, losing players like Hazard, potentially not being able to bring, world-class players in for 2 transfer windows is going to hurt them. But will it stop them from doing what they've been doing? I'm not too sure. I think there's a bigger problem to that. Like Matty said, there's a lot of bad people around trying to get players at younger age because they're trying to get the best players at younger age to keep them in their club to get the best players to sell on at a lot of money.
OK, so we've got Matthew Upson at the London Stadium alongside Conor McNamara. We're going to talk about that game in a little while, West Ham against Fulham in the Premier League. But there's another game taking place in the Premier League tonight. It's Cardiff City against Watford, and Michelle Owen is there for us.
Yes, good evening from South Wales, where Cardiff could move 4 points clear of the Premier League bottom 3 with a win tonight. They return to action after a 13-day break. 3 changes from their last outing. Sean Morrison is back after his burst appendix, which is a big boost for Neil Warnock's men. Josh Murphy and Leandro Bacuna coming in. They're all in for Aaron Gunnarsson, Bobby Reid and Lee Peltier. Watford have lost just one of the last 10 games in all competitions. Since the turn of the year, they've been very good indeed. 2 changes for them: Adam Messina and Robert Pereira in for Ken Sema, and Jose Holebas, who is suspended this evening. Kick-off here at the Cardiff City Stadium is at 7:45.
OK, thank you, Michelle. So a win for Cardiff tonight could move them up to 13th. And just while Cardiff is fresh in the mind, our Rugby Union correspondent Chris Jones will join us at around 8:30 to look ahead to the Six Nations match between Wales and England tomorrow. It's a real chance, isn't it, this for Cardiff, to win another one, to maintain their good form at the moment and start to pull away from the danger zone.
Yeah, it's a massive game for Neil Warnock's side. Playing against a strong Watford team, hard to beat. Won't be an easy game. But like you said, potentially if they win the game, they go up to 13th, and it'll be a great result for them if they get 3 points tonight.
A quick thought, Matthew, on your game at the London Stadium tonight, London Derby. It's a really big one for Fulham, isn't it? Because they're at that stage of the season now where the games are starting to run out for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a massive ask for Fulham at this stage of the season to make up 7 points, I think it is, on third bottom and climbing out of the bottom 3. So, to stay in touch and to give themselves any hope, these are the type of fixtures, although I think it's a tough game for them, I think these are the type of fixtures that from now on in they have to think about winning.
So Matthew Upson alongside Conor McNamara, commentary to come from the London Stadium in the Premier League. West Ham against Fulham, regular updates, Cardiff against Watford, 2 Premier League games taking place tonight. Jonathan Greening in the studio with me. So let's focus on the big game at Old Trafford on Sunday for the next few minutes. Jurgen Klopp says Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has turned United into a different side from the one that Liverpool beat in December, and he said he's certain to be the next permanent manager at Old Trafford after proving himself at the highest level.
Of course. That's how it is. We all needed luck in our life, in our managerial career. So when I went from Mainz to Dortmund, people said I have no international experience. That was true. But it's not something you can buy or whatever. You have to make it. And if Ole is not a former player of Manchester United, then he will not have made a move from Norway to Manchester United. That's clear. But if you get a chance, you have to use it. And of course, he showed everything what you need together with his coaches. He has the quality and he had the luck in the right moment. And now he's in charge. And there's no doubt about that he will be there for that he will be the manager next year as well. That's clear. Can you imagine one situation when they say we bring in another manager and the new manager will lose one game, and then that's of course not possible. So he deserves that 100%. He made everything what you have to make to be successful with them. But so I think now we spoke enough.
So that's Jurgen Klopp, who says that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is certain to be the next manager of Manchester United. As a former Manchester United player, Jonathan Greening, is the Liverpool manager right?
I hope so, but I'm not too sure if he's playing mind games before the game. But I think Ole's done terrific since he's come in. Obviously, won 11 out of 13. He's brought enthusiasm and energy to the team, and the attacking players, I think mainly he's given that licence, that freedom to go and express themselves, and they've been fantastic under him.
Matthew, he's been really good at answering questions, hasn't he, Solskjaer? Not just when he came in and had the impact at the start, but I think a lot of eyes were focused on just how they'd respond against Chelsea in the FA Cup, having been beaten relatively handily by PSG in the Champions League, and yet again he was able to galvanise the players, get them out there, and they played fantastically well.
They did. They played a very solid game. I think you think of the one big question mark, and you start to look at it and think, well, let's put the reasons down as to why they won't give him the job at the moment. And the one big glaring one for me is like that ability to tactically manage top-end football matches. Those Champions League games or key FA Cup semi-finals, finals, whatever it may be. And you only get better at that by doing it, I think. And he showed in that instance that he was able to reset his team after a bad defeat in a way of, they were dominated quite heavily in that PSG game and deserved to lose the match. But to come back and put in a performance like that, shows he's able to put his team back together and pick the right team and the right tactical situation to go and win the game. So, I think when you look at reasons why he wouldn't get the job, you start to run a bit thin on the ground.
Yeah, the facts of the matter are, though, Matt, that certain results and performances will leave an indelible mark on a board of directors. And if you can beat Liverpool at Old Trafford, that is one of those games.
Definitely, it's in terms of domestic football, it's the game, isn't it? You know, you speak to any Liverpool, Manchester United supporters, that's the game, and I'm sure it will have that impact on the board, and for him to be able to put the team out and produce a good performance and even get a result would just be a massive boost to him getting that job at the end of the season.
So mind games aren't Solskjaer's thing, but he did say this week that Sir Alex Ferguson would be welcome to come in and give his team talk.
I don't think Jurgen Klopp will read what I say. I'm not going to read what he says or the player says. That's further down the line, I would think. But he would be welcome to have his talk to the players if he wanted to, the gaffer, because we know how much it meant for him to overtake Liverpool. So I think our players know what it means for everyone at Man United.
I don't want to be a cynic here, Jonathan Greening, but I know that he respects Sir Alex Ferguson. He played under Sir Alex Ferguson. But do you also think there's an element of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that he's realised here that he can be a massive ally in helping him get the job if he says the kind of things he said there?
100% correct, yeah. I think, he's obviously got a great relationship with Sir Alex, and, he brought him to the club. He made him a top striker, won loads of trophies under him. And as you say, obviously Sir Alex has advised the board to take Ole in, and I think Ole's going to use him to the best of his advantage. And if he comes in and does the team talk tomorrow and they're going to win the game and they win loads of games to the end of the season, he's got a hell of a chance of getting a job in the summer.
I mean, Matt, from a Liverpool perspective, this is ginormous, isn't it? Because you look at the way that the title race is balanced. Any slip up by anybody at this stage could be a fatal one, and of course we know how unpredictable this particular fixture can be and has been over the years.
Yeah, you almost kind of take form out of the equation, don't you, with these type of matches, these really intense derby matches. And when you look at, it's almost the game in hand that they have on Manchester City to get back on top of the table and to get 3 points ahead of them. It just all adds to an unbelievable match and a great atmosphere and great occasion.
I was thinking the other day, because we've got a League Cup final on Sunday afternoon as well, Manchester City against Chelsea, and that comes after Liverpool at Old Trafford against Manchester United. Which is the bigger game, in your opinion, on Sunday afternoon, Jonathan? Is it a game that dishes out the trophy at the end of 90 minutes or however long it takes, or is it this one that historically has been the biggest game every season?
Manchester United against Liverpool, for me, I think, it's a massive game. Everyone's looking forward to it. I think, if Manchester United win the game, it causes problems for the Premier League, and I think, Liverpool are desperate to win it. And it'll give Man City the incentive to go and win the Carabao Cup on Sunday, and then know that they're in pole position to go and win the Premier League.
What do you think, Matt? The game with the trophy or this one?
Winning the trophy. You put me in a difficult position here.
Well, the reason why I asked is that everybody turns around and judges Pochettino and says, well, he's never won anything.
Yeah.
But then we're actually sitting here and making a relatively strong case that a league game between a team that's not top of the table, potentially, and a team that might not be in the top four might actually be a bigger game than one where there is a trophy at the end of it. You see where I'm coming from?
I absolutely do, but such is the Premier League at the moment and what's at stake. I mean, in one way I feel bad that I agree with Jonathan on that, because it must be about winning cups and trophies, and that's what playing football is all about, and being in those competitions and reaching the final stages. But this Premier League battle at the moment, and just with the resurgence of Manchester United and what their quest